either anonymously through, I can click the got it button, anonymously through the Q&A button if you have got one, or you can use the reaction button at the bottom of your screen to raise your hand if you have a question, or put it into the chat, obviously. You'll also notice that for most people, there's a view button up in the top right-hand corner of your screen, and you can hide your self-view, or you can change the way that you are viewing this afternoon on your screen. So let's make a start. Good afternoon and welcome to this afternoon's Q&A session for those seeking more information about our conference and our theme, Rising to Our Challenges, Archives at the G. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of all lands on which we gather. For us, that is the lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung and Boonwurrung Bunurong peoples of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present and welcome Aboriginal elders of other communities and First Nation community members here today. My name is Marian Jenkinson and I'm the co-convener for this year's conference. I'm focusing on the events management side of things. Colleagues here this afternoon are Catherine Hall, who is archivist at Xavier College Q and currently the National Schools SIG convener, and our chair for our program committee, Associate Professor Joanne Evans from Monash University, who will be leading most of the conversation today. And so the first question I'm going to ask you, Joanne, is what does Rising to Our Challenges mean, and why did we pick the MCG to be included in our theme title? I'll hand over to Joanne.
Thank you very much, Marian. Now I'm just going to do the share screen tango, so please bear with me. We've just tested it out, it all worked, and so fingers crossed it will work again. And yes, there we go. Oh, and yes, I've stop that, done. Slideshow view. Yes. Yeah. So yes, all good. It's like, and I've got you all back up on the screen. You haven't all gone tiny, so that's fantastic. So yes, to talk a little bit about the theme and the place that we've chosen for the conference, because we think it's a fascinating place to be at the conference, and so have looked to use it to inspire our thinking. So what I wanted to do was to sort of start off sharing some personal MCG connections and memories. I'm a Melbourne girl. Been here most of my life, yes, have visited the MCG many times and realised in thinking about it in many different ways as well too. So what happened is here at Monash, we've actually used the MCG as a venue a number of times, and actually was there a couple of times last year in 2022. And when I was there at the end of May, it was the Indigenous round. And so to walk up to the G and to see the woman Jaika, and particularly, I guess, coming out of pandemic and lockdown, it was, one of those moments. And as you can see, there are some autumn leaves in the front there. So this is a bit interactive. It's like, so my first question is, can anybody would like to, I guess, put in the chat or the what the significance of the autumn leaves are? It's like anybody, or jump in and say what that significance is. Yeah. Oh, now where's the chat? I've got to pull that back up again so I can see it. Yes. Yeah. So anybody has a guess as to the autumn leaves?
Yes, August. Catherine.
Finals. Yes. 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 Well, I guess, yes, this is, for me, it's the Paul Kelly song Leaps and Bounds. It's like, which is, talks about, I'm breathing today, the month of May, or the burning leaves. And I guess the lyrics of Leaps and Bounds starts off with, I'm high on the hill looking over the bridge to the MCG, and way up and high, the clock on the silo, which no longer works, says 11 degrees. And having as a Melbourne girl, many times, driven, coming from that side of the city down Punt Road, seen that silo. I guess it's a song that resonates with me a lot. So, and again, has played a part in inspiring our theme as well too. So, So the next picture was we were there in December for our graduate research retreat. And when we were there, this stage was being set up. So again, my second question is whether anybody knows who the stage was for. And there's two possible answers to this. And who, if you did end up going there, it's like
Anthony O'Carroll has asked Robbie, as in
no,
Robbie
no,
Williams?
not Robbie. Yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Not
yes.
Robbie. Who else did we played down here in December?
Yes. Yes, as it happened, there was two. We weren't sure whether they were packing up from one or setting up for the other, but it was Guns N' Roses the day before. And then it was Billy Joel at the end of the week as well too. So it was a big event for the big event set up at the MCG. So it was fun in our breaks to be able to, I guess, watch what was going on the ground, all the roadies doing their stuff. And also, I guess, because we have a lot of international students at Monash too from various places to sort of talk about football and cricket and explain to them what it was. And I know for some, particularly our Sri Lankan and Indian students, it's like, you know, to beat a place like the MCG was really exciting. It's like, and so because it means a lot to them as cricket fans. So that was great. Yeah. Okay, so oops, now come on, computer. Oop. So this is the next one. It's like, so now this goes back to the first rock concert at the MCG way back in 1974. So anyone want to hazard a guess as to who this might be? This is really going to test the generations.
Oh, we've got a very shy group of people here today.
Yes.
Oh, I know. So someone else says Catherine.
Yes, Marissa, well done. It's like, yes, and Anthony,
and
yes,
Anthony,
yeah, close, yes, yeah. So yes, this was David Cassidy, and the he was the TV show The Partridge Family was on the little black and white TVs that we used to watch back then. It's like, and you'll find that I'm somewhere here, maybe possibly there. I was 8 years old at the time and I couldn't see much. And actually it was quite, I mean, thinking of the occupational health and safety was terrible. It's like all the crowd was pushing forward. I think he was on for about 10 seconds or less. It's like, and then they had to whip him off the stage because of the crush. Well, he was on for about 20 minutes, I think. It's like, and then I read in doing my research, it's like when they whipped him into the car, they actually drove into the fence on the way out. Luckily didn't injure him. It's like, so again, but it was the first rock concert at the MCG. So how about that? Yeah. I guess the next one. So this is my school sports day back in 1977. And so anyone want to hazard a guess as to who's presenting the trophy? And there's a little bit of a clue down the bottom there, which was taken when I was at the MCG in December, because it was in the car park where that's on display.
Oh, again, you've got people confused on this one. Yeah. Can there be a hint, Joanne, of who it might be?
Well, again, the hint's in the picture there. It's the Olympic Games.
James.
Yes.
Kathy Freeman.
Definitely not James. That's definitely not. It's like, yes, yeah. So it was the athlete who lit the cauldron at the 1956 Olympics, and that was Ron Clark. And so here he is at our school sports day presenting the trophy, and somehow I was the sports captain, which is ludicrous because I'm absolutely terrible at all sports. It's like, so, but yes, and we were like, somehow we won as well too. It's like, so there you go. It's like, so that's little me, although I think I'm probably the same height since then. So there you go. Some things haven't changed much there. Yes, definitely. That was the highlight of my sporting career so far. Okay, and the next one is 1995. What tradition begins at the MCG with this picture here?
Very packed audience.
This will get very tribal for Melbourne people, yeah, or AFL fans. There's a clue. Yes, yes, yeah.
No, nobody's having a guess.
No takers. Yeah. So this is the Anzac Day clash between Collingwood and Essendon in 1995. And what happened was that it was a real grassroots groundswell where there was a lot of promotion of the Anzac Day round, but it sort of exceeded all expectations, because when we went along, me and my sister were into football at that stage, and we actually had seats for the Collingwood home games. I'm sorry, I'm a Collingwood supporter. And when we got there was this incredible crowd. It's like it was actually a world. It was the highest non-finals crowd, 95,000 or something like that. And it was this incredible game between Collingwood and Essendon, and it actually ended in a draw. So whether we were both satisfied or both teams were satisfied or disappointed, who knows? But essentially, it began the tradition of the Anzac Day round. And yes, Kevin Sheedy was a big promoter of that as well too. It's like, and so I was in on when that tradition began. And I guess the other significance of 1995 for me is when this is my first year as an archivist as well too. So this was when I began working at the Australian Science Archives project as we dealt with the records relating to Generation Victoria. And again, how things come around with here in Victoria talking about the State Electricity Commission coming back into being. It's like, so there you go. And so there you go. There's possibly about around there somewhere. It's like a little blur. Yeah. And then here's the final one, which was again in 2022 last year, and this was Shane Warne's memorial service, where the stand where we're going to be located in, which was the Great Southern Stand, got its new name, the Shane Warne Stand. So we were again went along as part of that moment. It's like, and it was I guess a colourful character, an interesting career, a complex character as well too. It's like, but that certainly. It was to be part of a moment in the MCG history was one of the reasons we went along to that. So I guess in sharing that was to sort of reflect on why we felt that we wanted, being at a venue like the G rather than just in a hotel that sometimes can look the same wherever you are in the world, to sort of factor our thinking into what the G means as part of developing the theme for the conference. And what we did is we had what we called a theme storming workshop, where we sort of got together and talked about, what we wanted the conference to look like, and what we wanted to come up with some principles about that should underpin, I guess, not just the theme, but the conference as well too. So we wanted something that might resonate across the ASA membership. And one of the nice things about our committee is I think we've got a diversity of representation from all different parts of the profession. We wanted it to be a real showcasing of the profession, that it would be aspirational, positive, put us up there on the stage with the others that we need to connect with, to reflect the iconic location of the event. And I guess thinking about what it means as a place is, maybe another question is the MCG an archive in itself? It's like, so we talked about the spirit of the place. And we wanted, of course, to inspire creative, forward and future focused discussion of the role of archivists and record keeping in society, and our place as professionals to sort of steward those conversations, and that advocacy as well too. And yes, capture. The other thing was to also think about where we were going to be in 2023 and capture something of the spirit of that. And so that's in sort of playing around with that. We came, and that's where the leaps and bounds was going through my head at one stage, and in a few email conversations, it was sort of that thing of you know, a lot of time at the G, it is about watching AFL football where people are rising, both in terms of the way that they play the game, but also in the way in the game overall. And so thinking about how many people have come to the G and risen to the challenge of performing on that kind of world stage. And so that's where the rising to the challenges came from. And very much a case of one of the things was that to think about the passion that people go to the G at, as a sports person, as a musician, all sorts of different ways, and to sort of think about how we are in a profession that we feel passionate about, and we feel passionate about the role that records and record keeping play in connecting times, places, people and spaces. And that so we wanted a theme in which we could sort of talk about some of the challenges around making sure that records and record keeping are an instrument of government accountability, openness, transparency, that we focus on protecting the people in the archives, particularly citizen and consumer rights and entitlements, that we sensitively, properly, ethically deal with the intricate and intimate details of people's lives, and that we, the role that records and record keeping can play when it comes to sustainability, equity, justice, and other kinds of activism agendas. And so I guess the challenge, overarching challenge, is, you know, in a world that's now awash with digital data and information, how do we ensure that archival systems and organisations are valued, that our professional knowledge is respected and called upon when needed, and that the resource and support of record keeping functions are to the fore. So I think that gets to the the next question that Marian's going to ask.
And basically, yeah, the next question is why, and we did, we made as a committee, we made a very purposeful commitment to how do we want to make this a very genuine experience for everybody who comes. And so we decided that the traditional term call for papers wasn't going to quite suit everything that we thought could be brought into this this conference. And so we've purposely changed the name to Call for Contributions, where we're hoping that people who have put in their contributions so far are thinking outside the square a little bit and thinking, okay, how can I present? This is going to be a hybrid conference. So how can I present what I need to say in a way that's perhaps a little bit different to just the traditional, what I would call chalk and talk, which is, you know, a PowerPoint and talking at the audience, which is kind of what we're doing today. But we're also looking at something where we're very excited that people have got very creative ideas, and especially because we are going to be hybrid, we need to appeal not only to the audience that's in place in front of us, but also the audience that's out there in the ether. How are we going to keep them involved and keep them engaged in what's being said and in the question and answer side of things? So we purposely called it Call for Contributions, because we want to see how creative you can all be in thinking about, okay, this is what I'd like to say, but what's a way we can do it? How can I get the audience more involved in bringing the information out of me rather than me just going blah, here's my presentation. So we purposely called it a call for contributions. Joanne, do you want to expand on that further?
I think you've done pretty well there, Marian. It's like, and so yes, I think I guess our job is to make sure that we've got the spaces where that can happen as well too. It's like, and so because I think that can have, I know I've been to conferences where they've sort of said, come, do something interactive, and then we've come and all the chairs have been lined up in rows. It's like, yeah. And there was one conference, not an ASA conference, but I know there was one where we said we're going to make a circle, and the people go, no, you can't do that. No, we were going to do it. It's like, so I guess our job in supporting a call for contributions is to make sure that, yes, that you're going to be in an environment where you'll be able to deliver if you want to do something a bit differently. It's like, so I guess if you are thinking about doing something differently, to sort of, do please say, what you need in order for it to work, particularly for a face-to-face audience. Yeah.
But also, face-to-face and stroke online audience as well, to keep them involved, because it's very easy if there's an audience presence live, if you're online, it's very easy to feel like you're being ignored or forgotten about or whatever. So we are planning to try very, very hard to make sure that the experience for people, if they can't come along in person, I mean, we obviously would prefer people to come in person, but if they can't, and because, we're in a world today where we can offer a hybrid online experience for people, we want that actually to be an experience, not just to be sitting behind a screen. We'd like people to walk away and go, yes, actually, I really enjoyed that, and I was glad I was able to come along. So if you're looking at putting in a contribution, then please have a think about how you're going to present it as well. And on our committee, we have a number of people who, myself, I'm in school archives, Catherine's in school archives. We're also teachers. And so if you're looking for some ideas of ways to engage an audience, ways to maybe get people to be involved, and you're not sure that you can do that yourself, give us a call, please contact us, and we can see if we can give you some ideas of how you could make your presentation even better. Okay, so this leads us to submissions. We had, is now the right time to say this, Joanne? We had 9 submissions over Christmas, New Year's break so far. Mm-hmm. So people have made contributions, put in their ideas for contributions. And we've had one that's gone away and is rethinking about what they're going to say and how they're going to say it. So what's the focus that we're looking for, Joanne?
Well, I guess, yes, what we're looking for is that there is that aspect of challenge to it. It's like that, it is about saying, here is one of those challenges, whether it be that kind of internal challenge, whether that be an external challenge, and that, again, that it's not just describing a particular problem or issue, but actually, I guess, talking about how you do rise, it's like, and how do you tackle that challenge, and how does it actually build, be part of this picture of us as this diverse but essential, part of making sure those big issues around identity, memory, accountability. It's like, so to really, I guess, in my research space, with PhD students, we sort of ask them to think about the so what. It's like, so very much our challenge to you is that in your when you put in your submissions is actually to sort of, please tell us what the so what is. It's like, because we think it's it can be sometimes challenging to do that, but it does, hopefully it's inspiring as well too, to think about the so what, not just the what of what you want to do. So that's the challenge.
Actually, and yes, the so what is very, very important. A question just came up of what platform that we're using. Are we using Zoom? I might actually hand over to Catherine Hall briefly now, just to talk about the Events Air platform and how we see things that we would like to see offered by Events Air in being able to make our experience here in Melbourne even better.
Thanks very much, Marian.
Sorry, I've just put her on the spot. I apologise.
Oh, yeah. Joanne, do we still need that screen, or do we want to see people? Or is there any other fantastic screens to come?
Yes, yeah. The final one was just to say that we're now over to your questions, and given that that's what we're doing, so I will stop sharing so we can see everybody. It's like, oh, there we go, stop share. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
So for those of you who attended 2022 in Canberra, Events Air was the provider platform that the ASA had selected. And there was a desktop version and an app version. And as somebody who was attending online, I found it somewhat distancing from the actual conference. And so as a conference committee, we have put together some lessons learnt. Some of those are personnel and the use, and sometimes it's actually what Events Air can and can't do. However, Events Air are planning a major upgrade shortly, and so by the time September comes around, it will be a different module, and we will be hosting some training sessions both for presenters and for attendees. So if you're presenting or contemplating a call for contributions, there's possibilities for training and to understand the options that Events Air can use in terms of online polls that can go live, that engage the audience online as well as in person. So it might be that you ask for a show of hands in the past, but this time you ask everyone to get out their phones in the audience and online and answer a poll. So there's ways of engagement that there are options. So we will be rolling out training sessions later in the year for both attendees, just general attendees, and for those who are presenting. Anything else? Any questions on that? Stunned you all into silence.
That's all right. It's just something to think about. We're also hopefully, not hoping, we're planning that within the rooms, when you're in different sessions, that we'll be, we're looking into getting some volunteers from students from Monash and a variety of other places to get volunteers to come along for the couple of days who will be within the rooms themselves and looking after the AV side of things as well, to help people that are online if you're having troubles or that sort of thing, as well as within the room, getting more people involved in the room as well. So hopefully, if everything goes to plan, we should be able to get a lot more, hopefully be a bit more interactive. Quick question, will conference presentations be uploaded onto the ASA YouTube channel after the conference? Very good question. James, I think that is...
That's one for James. I know that
yes.
presentations are available via Events Air for some time after the conference, but
yep, I think we'll
James.
Probably be doing the same thing this year as we've done with last year's conference, which is that the videos will be available via Events Air for 12 months afterwards for attendees only. And then they'll start to move on to YouTube at some point after that.
Okay, so it's going to stay the same for the moment?
Yes.
Right, okay. Okay, yep, any other questions? So yes, we'll pass over to you guys now for questions that you might have, you would like to put to Joanne about maybe subject matters that you're thinking about looking into, or any other questions that you might have that you brought along with you this afternoon to find out some more.
So that we're not overwhelmed all at once, if you could use the show hand in the reactions. Excellent, Marissa.
No, I'm just checking to see whether I've muted or I've unmuted. Hang on.
You're now muted. No, you're now muted, Marissa. So do what you did, reverse what you just did.
Yep, sorry. Right.
There we go.
Okay, now I am. Yep, okay. quick question. Fantastic theme for the conference, particularly given the current situation with AI. And I'm wondering whether you're going to devote a special strand to the conference on dealing with the challenges there. The reason that I bring this up is I've got a background in school, so people like Catherine and Marian would probably only be too well aware of the fact that different states in Australia are taking very different approaches with AI within schools. That's one. And two, because I'm a very strange human being and I actually watched the English language version of Deutsche Welle over the weekend for the shift section. I don't know, Marian's laughing. I don't know whether Marian actually saw that one or not. But it's worth getting, if you can track it down on SBS On Demand, it's worth sort of waiting till towards the end of the broadcast. They focused on the impact of AI on the legal profession in the first part. And the second part was another set of perspectives and breaking it down to Microsoft pushing the money into ChatGPT and trying to take on Google and of course Google's response. And I just wondered, given all those circumstances, do you think, given this is going to be a big challenge over the next year, are you going to devote a strand to that? Are you already getting people who are interested in presenting in that area, or it's all very quiet and it's not going to impact on archives? Or maybe I'm, completely behind the ball with that.
I'll let Joanne answer that one.
Yeah, no, thanks, Marissa. It's like, yes, also big conversations here in the university. It's like, so our position and some policy changes around generative AI just dropped on Monday. It's like, and I'm actually teaching a summer unit, which is called Data in Society. It actually is about talking about those issues. It's like, and so we have incorporated that in to the final classes this week. It's like, and actually it's a wonderful, I was just talking to one of my tutors. It's a wonderful discussion, both conceptually and for them to experience. It's like how can you use a tool like ChatGPT ethically and responsibility when you're actually looking at the impacts of tools like ChatGPT? It's like, yes, very interesting. So I guess what we've sort of decided is, rather than necessarily sort of streaming the conference ahead of the submissions, it's like we have some ideas for keynotes to pick up on particular themes, but to look at what the contributions are saying about, where those particular streaming might go. And yes, I think there is already at least one that's sort of talking about AI issues. It's like, but yes, I think there is a big emergent thing happening, which would really welcome people, I think, getting together and having a chat about what does it mean in terms of, again, with these technologies, how do we need to harness them so that we are using them in an ethically responsible way. They are making the world a better place and not a worse place. And perhaps also that issue of what it means in terms of, authenticity, integrity, accuracy, intellectual property. It's like all sorts of issues that could be unpacked as well too, because certainly in our little experimentation, when we sort of put part of one of our assignments into it, it got it completely wrong. So but it did it with absolute confidence. So there you go.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm also a member of ALIA, and I have, in addition to the record stuff that I've done in my very strange life, I've also had a background in school libraries. And I know that there is concern within ALIA at the moment about the position of school librarians in some states and employment pathways. And I've also I've lived long enough and I'm decrepit enough to have seen school administrators and I'm not going to say at which level, but school administrators who have come up previously with the great idea of, hey, we've got Google, we don't need a trained school librarian, we don't even need a trained school library technician, and all sorts of
Some schools are even, we don't even need a library.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's happened in South Australia. Believe me, that's happened in South Australia already. So I'm just wondering if that's another aspect that, you know, may come on board with you when you get your submissions. Anyway, enough of me talking. Many thanks. Terrific.
Yes, and thanks to definitely not James for showing us what ChatGPT can do. It's like in generating content. And again, it's really interesting, you know, some of the information about, you know, who's been exploited in some of the hand coding that goes on behind the scenes to underpin, because all the AI is doing is predicting the next word is kind of interesting. It's like, and again, what does it mean to use the tool from an ethical design perspective? Who's going to be exploited in that? It's like, so, but that's, yes, very interesting that it can come up with quite diplomatic answers there, can't it, about, yes, saying it's not a replacement, yeah. And that human expertise is still valued. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I tried to unmute. Thanks to Catherine Jarvie too for putting in the link, excuse me, to AI for LAM. And she said they have a session in March. So if you're not in the chat at the moment, have a look at that and the link that she's put up there. Thanks for supplying that, Catherine. Appreciate that. Any other questions that people have, please, about ideas that you might have for what you might be contributing? Or questions you might have about Melbourne itself if you've never been here before. Pop it in the chat. Or put your hand up. Oh, Yana, yep.
Hello, my name is Yana Stepenka. I'm archivist at Ukrainian Association in Victoria. And we had a project with Monash University, and for 3 years we developed a big collection for our community, which were collected, so documents were collected for 70 years. And when I came with my group of volunteers for sorting all of these documents, it's come to one very interesting photo, which have back to 1953, and it's about Ukrainians marching on Swanson Street with protests, with a slogan, "Without free Ukraine, it's no free world." And now it's about to Holocaust in Ukraine and many, many years ago. But now when we have war in Ukraine, the same appeared again and again. And when Joanne talked about space and place, we're thinking about that Ukrainian house, which is host now this big collection. It's actually place of people, place of sense and identity. But again, it's also political ideas which interconnected around the globe. Since 1953, we again in 2023 have the same protests marching when the war started. So my idea about how to link these things together and present on a conference that as a worldwide community, people who present the history, how we can help new generation connect to these ideas about the importance of freedom, democracy, and history, put on a place to show, to learn from the past and not have a war again or other not democratic things. So my idea is about, John, can I send you an email and discuss my proposal, because I want to frame this more specifically for the conference, because it's plenty of beautiful archive documents which we discovered, and it's really, I want to highlight with this theme.
Yeah. Yes, thanks, Yana. I mean, that sounds really, yeah, interesting, timely. It's like, and again, how the deep roots of conflict as well too. It's like, and how important it is to not forget that to bring that past in as part of the solution to wherever, how we tackle it into the future. So it's not just remembering the past, but actually using the past to help understand what the next steps need to be and how the next steps need to not just be repeating the past. So I guess it reminded me of conversations in the Archival Education Research Institute around security and peace as a sort of a grand challenge, and the archival dimensions of that grand challenge, and certainly Anne Gilliland at UCLA being someone who's looked particularly in the conflicts, the legacy of conflicts in the Yugoslavian, the former Yugoslavian and the Balkan area as well too. It's like, so certainly would welcome, again, you know, that's putting, our challenges are global and worldwide. It's like, and how when it comes to having access to that history and heritage information, how it's so important to be part of tackling, finding solutions. Yeah.
Thank you.
Catherine.
Yes, coming off the worldwide comment, I've got the task of being on the Documenting Australian Society Committee. I'm the ASA rep on this committee, and it's about documenting Australian society. So I'm having a bit of a wrangle with, you know, why aren't we collaborating more globally about this issue when we're documenting not just our own society, but broader society. Last year in 2022, we had Adrian Cunningham speak on behalf of the DAS committee. Part of UNESCO's Australian Memory of the World is, you know, keeping the archival world updated on how we're going. And it's, you know, I think I haven't been involved with the conversation from the start, so I'm still catching up, but it would be good to have a segment not only just repeating what was said last year, but sort of building from it, and perhaps having a panel from different GLAM perspectives. But I don't have that by the specific date either. To, you know, we've got a date, so it would be great to have specific people in mind that we could lock in. But if it's just TBC as a proposal, how are you open to that still being ironed out, or do I have to have sort of concrete names of folks for the?
Yes, yeah. And this is, yes, I have experienced this myself in when you want to put forward an idea like that, but you almost need to know that it's going to be accepted before you can take the next steps and see that it's, you can start to lock in people, it's like, or not, as the case may be. So I think that's a really good point, Catherine. I think something that as a program committee, I think in the initial call for contributions, I guess, to lay out the vision that you have for what you want to do, and then to sort of indicate, you know, what would need, you know, you'd need to get this to go ahead and start turning that into reality. So please include that information in the submission, and then I think we can also then say, okay, provide again that initial go ahead, and I guess help as quickly as possible to determine, you know, is it the right moment? Is it going to be easy to get people together? It's like, because sometimes I know the experience is, and you know, particularly during the pandemic, it's like, you know, you agree to something, and then 6 months later, you know, getting those people together was not possible. It's like, so again, how we can actually help to deal with those issues within trying to have these sessions that are integrated and bring different voices together. It's like, so I think as a program committee, it's probably a challenge that, you know, happy to take on and accept. It's like, because yeah, again, we do want this conference to be, I guess, yes, so you know, the standard conferences, particularly in the research space, where, you know, here you go, here's my finished piece of research that I'm going to talk about. It's like, and that's all done in advance. I think ours is a little bit more organic like that, because we do want it to be responsive. And one of the responsive is, yes, if you've got an idea like that, when it comes to September, who's available to be part of that? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, great questions and great conversation.
Yes. Oh, ChatGTP is really telling us.
Yes, it's certainly giving us lots of information, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you, not quite James.
Does it spell record keeping as one word? Interesting.
Yes, it does. Go. Just how clever is this thing? We have a little under 10 minutes left. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll get on to you and see if we can get this over and done with. Unfortunately, we are limited on time and we're aware. Oh, Nicola, you've put up your hand.
Yes, sorry, I realised I didn't use the reaction.
You've done it in an analog fashion as opposed to electronic.
I've got really old fashioned. It was just a quick question, but I thought maybe you could explore. There's lots of ideas, obviously, about where the conference program might go, depending on what people put in. How much space is there within the program? Like how many streams are we anticipating? How many sessions and things like that? I just wondered if you could talk to that so we get a bit of a sense.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're working, I guess, with the standard, 3 streams in the sessions outside of the keynotes. We're probably going to cut at the moment, looking with our keynote proposals to actually have one less stream session than at the conference in Canberra, because it meant for a very long day on day one. So we're sort of keen to keep it within the 9 to 5 rather than being the sort of 8 to 6 that turned into. So that means that we do have one less of that sort of call for contribution session. So I think at the moment we've got the plan would be to have so there's 1, 2, 3 sessions which are coming through from the call for contributions, and I guess depending on where we land as we talk to our potential keynotes, it's like whether there might be a little bit of an additional space as well too. So that's the plan at the moment.
Yeah, good question. And yes, the keynote speakers that Joanne and the program committee are looking into inviting. We haven't got any confirmations yet, so unfortunately we can't let you know who they are, but it's certainly a very, very exciting and quite creative. There'll be some conversations going on from the last year's conference that will continue with hopefully some of the speakers if they have they accept our invitation, which would be very, very good. Yes, so the deadline for proposals has been 15th of January. January. Gosh, sorry. It's been a hectic start to the year. Sorry, people. Deadline proposal 15th of February. And as Catherine has just replied, yes, we'd like to see proposals before the deadline, but then we can continue to work with you on extension as Joanne just explained to Catherine, we can then work with you on how we can help you to make that happen, your idea. So at the moment, all we want is your idea and how, and we're looking for creatives. Yes, I know there's lots of Catherines and Catherines. creative ways that you can think of to put forward your idea and get the conversations that people in your areas of archives particularly want to have. What are some creative ways to get them involved? And for other people, like myself, who's in school archives, involved in maybe, government archives or the social, I'm sorry, the Catherine with a K, what you were talking about before with your, oh, come on, Marian, you wrote it down. Documenting Australian society information and that sort of thing. So yes, anything like that would be, get it in by the 15th if you can. I know it's very short, but get it into us and we can then talk to you about what expansion you need to put on that. Joanne, have you got any further to add to that?
Yeah, well, I guess given that question of extension has been raised, maybe we need to just have a little bit of a talk with and just sort of see whether there is any wiggle room on that, given that it's rapidly approaching. And if people do need, with that little bit of extra time, can put in something more polished, then yeah, we'll just, I think let's have a look at that. It's like, what scope there is for that, given what happens next.
Catherine Robinson, we might need to continue your conversation with key members of the program committee if you need senior approval before submission.
Yes. I mean, that's the thing. It's like to sort of, yes, make sure that, yes, any what you would need from the program committee to take the next steps. It's like make that really clear in what you're putting forward in the proposal. I think there was a question about how long is the presentation scheduled for? It's like, so we're working with the standard that, you know, the sessions are 1.5 hours. So that could be 3 kind of standalone presentations. We're searching for the right word for that, because we didn't want to just call them research papers. So that, which is about a 20-minute presentation, or hopefully with some interaction, and then sort of 10 minutes for 5 to 10 minutes for questioning, because there's usually a bit of introduction and housekeeping time as well too. So that's sort of the standard. But we're also saying if you're also interested in putting together something that is across the whole hour and a half, it's like, so to sort of fill the full 90-minute slot, and then there's also the lightning talks as well too. So as with last year's conference, to have a session where there's a set of very short informal talks, 7 minutes plus a bit of time for Q&A. It's like, so at least one of the slots will be that lightning talk slot, which I understand was a lot of fun in Canberra. Yeah.
And panels as well. You know, if you want to work with a few people and have, you put together a panel session, that would be great. That would be very, very good. All right, any last questions? Because we really sadly are running out of time. So any last questions before we go? Hands up, electronically or analogly? Analogly? You know what I mean. Okay, so if you are not tempted already, here are some things to tempt you to come to Melbourne. The coffee is good. Okay, and I say that because I'm a tea drinker, and I actually like the coffee down here. So the coffee is good down here. Presentations don't all have to be traditional, providing recommendations. Oh, we will be providing recommendations for your special interest group to have social gatherings in the city. So we're looking at collecting ideas for that as part of what we are providing for you. We're going to get together a list of ways to see Melbourne and the surrounds. We have lots of walking tours through Melbourne, laneway art tours, Indigenous landscape tours, food and drink tours. There's a whiskey and gin bars down here that do fantastic tasting things, if that's your thing, and lots of course arts and culture. This is Melbourne after all. And we're also planning to organise for attendees behind the scenes tours at the MCG, the NAA repository out at Burwood, and lots of other cultural activities around the place. And our big surprise, Catherine, have you got anything to say, Catherine Hall?
No.
Here we go. No. Our big surprise is we have already locked in that the welcome drinks at the end of, after the AGM on the Monday the 4th, the welcome drinks, we have actually booked out the Australian Sports Museum as a private event, and you'll be able to socialise with attendees at the conference actually in the museum, and then as part of that also hopefully we'll get to do a little bit of behind the scenes in their repository as well, to see their collections that they've got there. So if none of that tempts you to come to Melbourne, then hop online and attend as a virtual attendee, but hopefully we'll see you all in September in about 8 months' time. And thank you very much everybody for coming along this afternoon. I hope we've been able to answer your questions. Joanne, anything before we go that you want to finally finish with?
No, I'm good. So thank you everybody for coming along. It's like, and yes, yeah, questions are good. Please keep on asking them.
Okay. James, you've got a thumbs up, so you're all good. Okay, good. Thank you. Thanks everybody for coming. It's been lovely to see you all, and yeah, see you all in September. Thank you very much. And we look forward to hearing your presentation, call for contribution.